Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and I'm back with another recap of the second part to Mary J. Blige's Voices of Power, and we have Strength of a Woman. So Kendra, she is now a world-renowned photographer. She has her own business and she lives in Chicago, and she's still friends with Terry from college. She's married to a man named Kevin. So she has a bunch of clients and whatnot, and her work is really, really good. Also, one day, I guess I would say like this, Terry comes in to say hi to Kendra because Terry also is hosting a Hammond's alumni fundraiser in town, but also Kendra, she has an award ceremony for being the best photographer in town. So she was scheduled to have her award ceremony that night, and then her husband comes in, Kevin, and was like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be able to make it, I have to do a double. And it's just like, why of all nights? Like, you couldn't, but whatever. She was like, okay. So Terry, like, you could see the disgust on her face when Kevin went to kiss her. Like, she was like, is on to something, but let it bypass. So after that, Terry was like, so what's his excuse now? She was like, oh, he got to pull a double. And Terry was like, same thing I was thinking, like, why would you do that of all nights? But anyways, that's beside the point. So later on that night, she gets home. She has her award ceremony. She gets her award. It's beautiful. She's in the bathroom. She's calling her sister at the time, but she doesn't pick up to check on her dad. And as soon as she gets off the phone with him, a few minutes later, Kevin walks in, and she's ovuling, so she wants to start a family and whatnot. And Kevin was like, no, I'm exhausted. And like, if you're married, right, it shouldn't matter whether you're tired or not. You still make time for your spouse. But he didn't want to do that. He just wanted to take a shower and I guess get ready for bed. So she was like, oh, okay. But she wants to know how to baby so that they can get it on. Because she's like, if we're doing the rhythm method, we got to be in the rhythm. But he was like, nah, I don't want to do that. So eventually she gets a phone call. It's her sister, Sasha, calling her back, telling her the update of her dad, telling her he's asleep. And when they talk it out or whatever. And then that's the next day. That's that night. So now it's the next day. Terry goes by the office, well, Kendra's office, to go pick up a painting that, photograph that Kendra did for the fundraiser. And Terry offered to pick up Kendra to take her there because she didn't think that Kendra would go there on her own. So that's that. So later on that day, Kendra's getting ready for the fundraiser, and her husband comes in with some flowers, and he was like, I'm trying to make it up to you from last night. And she was like, yeah, whatever. So eventually, I guess, they did the thing. She went to the fundraiser, and, it was cool. Terry decided to go get her picture to move it up somewhere people could see better so they get a better lighting. And Kendra decided to go outside with her champagne to the back, whatever. And next thing you know, who pops up? Mr. Benjamin himself. So, they're chopping it up or whatnot. And he tells her that he misses her. And she was like, no, don't do that. We're not about to go back down this road all over again. And he was like, nah, just wait. Let's chill with me for a second. And they just continued talking about, what they've been going on. And how, they still got feelings for each other. Well, Ben rather says how he got feelings for her. She's really trying to cut him off. And what he said when he said, I missed you, it hit a chord. And then she was like, nah, don't touch me. Don't do nothing. You have a great night, Ben. And that's just what it is. So now it's the next day, and Terry and Kendra are walking. It's raining outside. So they're walking with their umbrellas or when they're talking, whatever. And Terry asks her, so how is the encounter with Ben and stuff. She was like, you don't even want to know. That's just what it was. So they're walking, and then Terry also tells Kendra that Tyler, her son, got into a private school, and Kendra was like, so what's the father think about it? She was like, I don't know. Maybe I'll get him to help. And she was like, yeah, you do that, because if not, I got you if you need it. But, so Kendra ends up getting a phone call. It's her sister Sasha. She basically tells her that dad passed away, like from heart failure. So she broke down. Next thing you know, North Carolina. And they go to pay their respects to the funeral. Also, Ben decides to show. I'm like, oh, yeah, he showed up. He stayed at the back though, but he showed up. So after that, it's Sunny, which is her niece, her sister Sasha, and her, and Terry and Tyler, and a bunch of other people that her dad knew, and Benjamin and stuff, and Kevin's there as well. And they show their respect. So after the funeral is over, they go back to the house, after do the little repast with the dinner and talk like that. Yeah, I know. Okay, so they did that, and they passing out food or whatnot. One of their relatives wanted to say hi to Sunny, and Sunny was like, ugh, I don't want to. But, her mother made her to, so she went and go say hi. So after that, Kendra is talking to her sister in the kitchen, and she basically saying, how are you? She was like, how are you doing? And Sasha was like, I'm exhausted, sad, and kind of relieved. But she was like, Kendra was like, you basically put on the whole burden while I was working stuff. She's like, don't do that. That's probably what dad wanted you to do, but it's whatever. And then I guess later on that night or whatever, oh yeah, during that whole situation, whatever, I guess it was the crowd was winding down or whatnot. So Kendra went outside in the back to sit down. Next thing you know, Ben opens the doors like he's always there, perfect timing. And he was like, folks are looking for you. And she was like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to be found. So he was like, okay, I'll go tell them. So as he's walking back to the door, she was like, but I'd rather be found by you. He comes back, closes the door, and they sit down, give each other a hug. And she's just like laying in his shoulder. And, they have a moment. They were about to kiss, but, Kendra, she was like, no, I can't do this. I can't, or whatever. So that was that. She pats him on the shoulder, then she goes inside. So, yeah. You can see the love in his eyes. Like, he loved that girl. He loved that girl. So, anyways, Kendra ends up back. And, before she leaves, that night, Kendra is in the kitchen with her sister. And she brings back Sunny's plate. And says she didn't want to eat. She basically been like that since their dad died, which is her grandfather. So Kendra offered her, like, when is she out of school? She was like, in a few weeks, so maybe she could come to Chicago to spend some time with me, get a fresh change of scenery and stuff like that. So her sister was like, okay, that's good. That way her mom can get a break. So yeah. So now back to Chicago. I think it's now a couple of days. Also, Kevin had to leave early, so he didn't stay for the funeral, supposedly. So she now gets back to Chicago. She's eating dinner, whatever, home. And then she gets a notification on her phone, like, ovulation. So she was like, let me stop eating my food, get this wine. She puts it in the bag. She gets her keys. And then she's like, oh, let me go surprise my husband. So she gets to the hospital. She fixes herself up, gets the bag, and she walks out to where she's going to the entrance. As she's walking, she sees her husband hugged up along the corner with some girl. My bad, with a girl. And he doesn't see her right away, so he's put his arm around the girl, and they're walking. As soon as he saw Kendra's face, he put his hands down. Was like, she was like, what is that? What is that? And that lady's still walking inside the place. And he was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. Like, dumb stuff guys say, but whatever. She slaps him, and she leaves, and then she ends up at Terry's house. So it's now the next morning. Basically, Kevin's been calling and calling and calling. Terry basically telling her like, listen, just let him go. You don't need to. But she's like, listen, I gotta eventually talk to him and, you know, see what's up. So Terry's just like, nah, don't do that. But, you know, you got to sometimes see both sides of the picture. So after they had a little moment, Kendra decides she's going to go home. Meanwhile, Kevin is sitting on the steps waiting for her to come. So she comes to the door and she was like, so how long has this been going on? He was like, a few weeks, a month, or whatever. She was like, she basically gave him a second chance. So around this time, she's back at work doing her clients or whatever. Sonny comes into town the next day. And Kendra picked up Sonny from the airport. And, you know, she's doing her work and whatnot. She was like, I'm sorry for, like, bringing you here straight after work. So while Kendra decided to finish up her work with her clients, Sonny went into her office and she started looking around at some of her awards and stuff like that, achievements, and she picked up one of her cameras. And she started, you know, doing what Kendra used to do when she was back in college. And then Kendra walks in on Sunday and was like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm sorry. She's like, nah, you can hold on to this. Just, you know, do what you got to do. If that's your passion, you know, do what that is. So later on, they go home. Kevin sets up a welcome home sign that says welcome home, welcome to Chicago, Sonny, with balloons and everything. And he basically made pulled pork sandwiches. And she's like, that's one of her favorites. So they did that and all that stuff. Kendra was actually like, okay, good job. Because she basically don't want to let her niece know that, you know, they was back and forth with the argument. And that's just not what she's like. So whatever. They settled in and whatnot. So it's now, well, the next day or a couple of days later, they in the record shop looking at some records or whatever. And lo and behold, who's there again? Mr. Ben. He's there with his son looking at records because I guess it's his son's birthday or whatever. And, you know, they bump into each other and they was like, hey, whatever. And then Sonny was like, look, this is one of my grandpa's old records and stuff like that. She's like, yeah, this is all my mom. Because Sonny knew that was Ben. So Ben was like, oh, hey, Sonny. And then Ben introduced Miles, which is his son, to Kendra and Sonny. So they all got acquainted. So Miles went to go show Sonny some of her other records or whatever, and then Ben and Kendra started talking some more, but then he ended up getting a phone call, so he steps away for a few. Coming to find out, it's his baby mama, Connie, who been giving him hell since they was in college. Like, she wanted to get full custody of him, all this stuff like this. I ain't got time for this. I just talked to her the other day. So after that, you know, hey, whatever. So long story short, they're, you know, getting back reacquainted with each other. They had a few run-ins with each other. And yeah, so Miles and Sonny are spending more time with each other. And Kevin decided to take Kendra out on a date. So she goes over to Ben's house because Miles didn't have a date. Well, Sonny has a date. And she dropped Sonny off. He was like, oh, you're looking fine. She did look nice in that pink dress. And she was like, I can't stay. I have a date. So she ends up going on a date with Kevin. And then I guess when he went back to work. And then Kendra went to go pick up Sonny from Ben's house. She comes in and realizes he's working and whatnot. And he went to go get Sonny. And they're still talking, whatever. She noticed on the mantle their picture is sitting up by itself. And he was like, oh, that. Yeah. She was like, yeah, it's just leaning up there, but whatever. So, you know, they chop it up. He starts talking about his work and how he got to make these videos for his clients to help them get a lesson. So she decides to help him with that. And so they end up getting that stuff together a couple of days down the line. So one day she comes in late home and Kevin's sitting at the table. And he basically insinuated that she and Ben got something going on. He was like, what are you trying to say? That, no, that's not me. That's not how I've been down. We're friends, you know, doing what we got to do. So then they get into it again. And then Kevin decided to invite Ben over for dinner. So they come over the next day, have dinner, whatnot. And yeah, that didn't go well with them. Then, them two got into it again. and Kendra and Kevin were back and forth fighting. The Sunny was like, what's going on? She was like, no, everything's good, everything's good. So they went their separate ways. And then I believe Terry and Kendra meet up for lunch one day or whatever. And she starts talking about the whole situation with the tuition, stuff like that. She was like, oh yeah, his father decided to pay his tuition. She was like, oh, that's good. So after that, later on, she gets home. She starts checking her bank statements or whatever, and she notices a charge for $3,300 on their thing. And her husband Kevin walks in and was like, "Well, I did this for my sister because of her car or whatever." So he's like, "We're not about to go through this," and he ended up walking into the room. So, you know, a woman's intuition. She picked up her phone. She called the sister-in-law. Was like, listen, so did I? She's like, no. Oh, I probably didn't hear you right. So I guess her sister was telling her, like, no, this is not what happened. So she was like, oh, okay, makes sense. And then she went and called the bank, and they figured out who the wire transfer was to. And she was like, oh, got in her car. She went to Terry's house, started knocking on the door. And she was like, and at this time, Terry's up, as well as her son, and he's rubbing his eyes, whatever. She was like, go back to bed. And then she was like, so Kevin sent you money. It makes sense. So Kevin is Tyler's baby daddy, baby father, well, his father. So she was like, come inside so we could talk about this. And Kendra was like, nah, talk about it. Tell me what's up right now. So basically, Terry tells her this is around the time they had broke up. It was a one-night stand. And, you know, they was drunk and sad. And Terry was like, we could talk about this. Kendra was like, nah, she ain't got no part. So she kept pushing her off and whatever. And stuff like that. Oh, I forgot. Hold up. While they was having dinner, Kevin announced that Kendra was pregnant. So Ben felt some type of way and he decided to leave as well. Because Kendra had found out she was pregnant sometime early, but whatever. So that was an issue too. So after that Terry incident, she goes back home. She gets garbage bags. She starts, before that, she goes to burn up his car. And then she gets garbage bags, turns the light on, it's like rise and shine. And she starts going in the closet, packing up his stuff. And he was like, where are you going? She was like, I'm not going nowhere, you are. So, you gave Terry the money. He was like, I could explain about that. Nah, ain't nothing about that. And he was like, you got to go get an Uber. He was like, for what? And she was like, because your car's not working right. Come on, let's go see. So she grabbed some of the clothes that she put in the bag, and they argued in front of the stairs. Next, he went to grab her. She pulled the bag back, and she ends up falling down the stairs. Next, she's in the hospital, and Sonny's there. And her whole face, all of this is bruised up severely. And come to find out, she ends up losing the baby. So, yeah. Later on, it's around the time where Sonny's about to go home. He's kicked out. She takes her ring off. That was that. Basically, Ben and her get back reacquainted with each other, spending more time with each other, helping with other clients and stuff like that. And then she breaks down. No, before this. She ends up going back. She breaks down to the whole incident. She stays home, drinking and whatever. She ends up missing her in Vogue shoot. Her assistant comes in, and basically, she was going through it. Her assistant told Sasha what's going on, so Sasha came into town to help her. Next, they go back to North Carolina, and she gets herself back right and whatever. Her niece is outside taking pictures or whatever in town, and she got a few clients or whatever. So it's like later on that day they come in, and her mom ordered pizza ahead of time, and Sonny was like, can we order pizza? She was like, already ahead of you. So, having a good aunt and niece situation, whatever. So next they're playing the song Strength of a Woman by Mary J. Blige. And then the doorbell rings, so Kendra decides to go get some money so she could go pay. When she opens the door, who is it again? Mr. Ben. And, you know, basically Sasha invited him for their pizza party, whatever they had going on. So that was great. They chopped it up a few more times. And later on that night, Ben asked Kendra to go with him to his family's barbecue that they have every year. So she go, and when they start talking and whatnot, come to find out, his mom was so nice to her. His mom was diagnosed with cancer a few years back, so that's why she was all chipper, whatever the case may be. The whole Connie situation, I know, like, everybody was probably like, dang, we judged this girl before we got a chance to know her. And look, she's still in the picture. But anyways, you know, after that, Ben and Kendra chopped it up some more. Then later on that night, you know, they had a moment again. And she's like, I can't. And then he's like, I don't want you to be anything else but in this moment. So, you know, one thing led to another. You know, they get back acquainted with each other, back and forth for North Carolina and Chicago. Long story short, Kendra decides that she wants to stay with Ben, and they're gonna work on their relationship. Yeah, strength of a woman. She went through a lot in those last few months, and good thing she got that one dude by her side to keep her going. Like, so she decided she's going to move to North Carolina because Ben, he lost, well, the custody hearing that Connie wanted to get the full custody. She didn't win that, but she also got the right to let him live in North Carolina. So he was like, I'm not going to keep going back and forth. So, you know, the full circle thing. So long story short, at the end, Kendra decides she's going to stay with Ben. You know, they love each other. They're going to build a family together. And she's going to live in North Carolina and go back and forth for her job. And that's just what it is. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. Yeah, check out Strength of a Woman on Lifetime and Lifetime app and get into it. Like, watch them back to back. That's just how good they was. So with that being said, I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.